Hey everybody, Grant Knies here from Precision Farming Solutions with your how-to video. This time around we are going to do a vibration calibration and get started on a weight calibration. So the vibration calibration is what we need to do not necessarily every year, but anytime anything major is done to the combine repair-wise, a new throat chain, a new clean grain chain, header repairs, any kind of major bearing work, we're going to redo that vibration calibration because that's what teaches our machine what the zero flow is on our flow sensor in the grain tank. So the one way to get to it from the run screen is the three lines at the top. We're going to go into settings. We're going to go to configuration setup. And then we're going to go to grain calibration. From here, we're going to hit the wrench at the top in the center. And we're going to touch perform vibration calibration. At this point, you can follow the on-screen instructions, which say engage separator, increase engine to full throttle, press the start button and let it cycle through for a 60-second countdown. After the timer expires, the system will make internal adjustments, and when it's successful, we'll hit the accept button at the end. So we're going to go ahead and turn the separator on and the header in gear. Get the engine to full throttle. And we're going to hit start. Now the entire time this calibration is performing, it's measuring the flow sensor and telling itself that, hey, anything that you're picking up right now is zero grain flow. Alright, calibration is complete. New calibration number is on the screen here. We're going to go ahead and hit check. And we're going to shut down our engine and separator. Now, the next step is we're going to do a weight calibration. So this is when you're in the field and ready. You have your weigh cart or scales or a grain cart with scales. Don't forget to, before you start shelling for the year, we're going to hit new calibration. And this says, do you want to retire the current calibration? We're always going to do that at the beginning of every year for both corn and soybeans. I've already done it for my platform this year, so I'm going to hit X now, but you will hit check. And we're going to go back to the run screen. Now we're going to break here and go back to the beginning of that vibration calibration. The second way to get into that is from the home page. We're going to go to setup. We're going to find our configuration here in the list, and we're going to hit the wrench in the middle. We're going to go into grain calibration, hit the wrench at the top, and perform vibration calibration. And that'll get us back on the exact same screen. So there's two ways to get to that. You do not need to do the test twice, but that's a second way to get into performing the calibration test. Now, back into our weight calibration. We'll make sure our configuration is selected correctly. Our platform head. Go next. Do your data management or management selections, your field, farm, etc. Soybeans is selected. I'm going to continue my previous event. I have my automatic variety and region tracking on. And it's loading my variety maps here. And now from this screen, to perform a weight calibration, we can go to weight at the bottom left. We're going to go to new load. And it's going to ask us if we want to add a new load for calibration. And to make sure that the grain tank is empty and there's no grain in the machine. So what this is saying is, and we need to at the beginning of every year, before you just go out and do a calibration, you want to run your end rows, open your fields up, and get your machine started in the grain that you're going to calibrate. And then empty it completely out before your grain tank completely out before you do this. And we'll start our new load. And the screen you'll see has changed just a little bit. Our weight and moisture buttons are gone down here, and it gives us a box and a button to end calibration. This number here, if you had a pretty good calibration from years past, that number should be fairly accurate. That's going to be the weight that is seen in the machine taking data for this calibration load. Now, I will attach at the end of this video the recommended calibrations from AgLeader. With the AgLeader InCommand 1200 displays, you can run as little as 1 and 2 load calibrations to just get your high and low points. I still run the 4 and 5 load calibration that was done with the legacy displays. I find it to be a little bit more accurate, and I like that accuracy when it comes to my records. But for guys who aren't as dependent on the yield monitor for their records, you can run 1 and 2 load calibrations to get that basically it will show you the trends in the field. So our next step is to turn on the machine and header. And as I get started here, I'm going to stop the video to focus on my driving, and when I get done, I will start video back up and show you the end of this process. Now we want to try to be in a portion of the field that has very consistent grain flow. On the 5 load or legacy calibration, you're going to keep your full swath and vary your speed on all 5 loads. I'm going to start out at slow speed, probably around 1 mile an hour, which is, I know it's hard to do, but that gets you your best calibration curve. So I'm going to get started in here, and the weight is going to start climbing as we start our harvest. See your weight climbing. I'm going to go ahead and stop the video for now, and I'll be back with you in just a little bit. Alright everybody, I'm back. I've hit my target weight right here, 4,500 pounds. That target weight, I usually shoot for 4,500. You definitely want over 3,500, but not more that's going to fit on your weigh wagon up there at where you're weighing. So my target's always been 4,500. I kind of know what that looks like in the back too, so I'll go by that. Another way to estimate that is if you know what your field normally averages, and then shell the acres according to what your field averages to get that weight and bushel number. So hit my 4,500 pounds. I'm going to turn the machine out of gear. Also, before you turn the machine out of gear, you want to make sure your grain flow here is 0 and that it's not spitting any out of your bubble up auger. Once that's complete, we're going to hit in calibration. It's going to ask you, do you want to end this calibration load? Make sure all grain in the combine is unloaded and included in the actual weight from the scale. So yes, we're going to end this load. Now a line shows up here, and when this line is highlighted, we have some options over here to right. We can rename it, and I always rename my loads based on date and speed. So 1108, and then I just abbreviate to the 21 because you are limited on characters you can put in here. And I was running about 1.2 mile per hour, so I'll put 1.2 mile per hour in there, and that's how I change my load names. And once we weigh, we'll be able to change the actual here as well. So we're going to go ahead and select actual, and that's where we put in our actual weight. Now I'm going to boogie on up to the scale, scale cart here, and weigh this load off, and we'll come back. I'm going to pause again, and we'll come back and enter that weight in and see how it adjusts. Alright, we're at the weigh wagon. I'm going to go ahead. I've zeroed the weigh wagon. We're going to unload our grain onto the weigh wagon now, and then we're going to hop down and get our actual weight. Now this is the point 2 where you test your grain moisture and your grain temperature, and you can offset those two. That's the other 2 calibrations we need to double check. So from the run screen on the ag leader, that can be checked in your moisture button here at the bottom. Your moisture offset is 13.0, and then check your temperature. Current temperature is about 87 degrees. So both of these sensors are in the EMU on the side. Real quick here, we're going to wait till all of our grain is emptied, and then we're going to go ahead and stop the unload auger. Back to this real quick before we go get our actual weight. So a good way to do the EMU is earlier in the morning, just to double check. Easiest way is with a laser thermometer, but if you know the current temperature in the morning when you get out here, that's usually the best time before the sun starts hitting the machine, or the machine's on and it's starting to warm up inside your shields. Check the ambient temperature and check this temperature right here, and we want to get that pretty close. Check it once or twice every year and you should be in good shape. And of course the moisture, you'll do that with a moist grain tester. I've got a Dickie John Mini GAC Plus here that I use, and I'll set my bias here in the ag leader based on my Mini GAC Plus, and that will get me very close. So I'm good on these 2. You can adjust those as you need. I'm going to go ahead and get back out of that and go into my weight screen. We're going to climb down here real quick and get our actual. Alright, our actual is showing 49.30. So we'll climb back in the cab and enter that into our screen. Back in our weight screen, we're going to highlight our load that we want to put the actual weight in for. Hit actual and do 49.30, what it says on our weigh wagon. And that'll adjust the weight and the actual. As we add loads, the weight and the actual will vary and it's going to adjust from what you get on your when you end that calibration load. That's the way Ag Leader starts adjusting its curve. Your percent error will also change here. Your average load error will be at the bottom. So that's what we want to achieve, is that average load error. I believe Ag Leader says 3% is acceptable, but it's not hard to get that below 1% in most cases. Definitely below 2. Now, if you're not comfortable with the average load error, and I'll show you this after I've gotten all my loads in, you can select the load that has the highest percent error and either turn it off or do a recalibration of that load. So I'm going to go ahead here now and continue on with my calibration. As we go, I'm going to do start with 5 loads. As I go on, I'm going to increase my speed from 1.2 mile an hour to the final, or the fastest load will be about as fast as I'm comfortable pushing the machine to simulate very high grain flow through the machine. So the 3 loads that we want to definitely get are really low speed, simulating poor grain flow through the machine, and really high speed, simulating really high grain flow through the machine. And then somewhere in the middle, where you normally run your normal operating range, your normal speed, and your normal yield. That's we want to get a load calibrated with that kind of parameters as well. So I'm going to go ahead and stop video for now. I'll be back with you guys in a little bit to show you how this progresses towards the end. All right, everybody, we're here at the weigh wagon for my last load. 4840. We're going to climb in and put that in, and I'll talk about a couple more things. Alright, so I've named all my loads here for my speeds. I'm going to go ahead and hit actual for this last load that's highlighted. I'm going to go ahead and enter my 4840 and hit the check mark. And we see there that our error per load is 0.3, negative 0.3, negative 0.4, negative 0.1, 0.5, and 0.3 for a total average load error of 0.3%. So like I said earlier, it's not hard. If you take your time and you do these calibrations right, it is not hard to get that below 1%. So I think the reason my errors are so high, actually, and like I said earlier, you can, if you've got a load that's really bad, say this last load was 5%, which I ran faster probably than I really should have on this last load. I choked the header up twice, but I still was able to maintain a pretty good flow through. But if I would take this off, then my average load error goes way down, and my average load error is negative 0.1%. But I'm okay with that 0.3%. I'm going to leave that load checked. I like having that little bit more of an error in there, because that gives me a point on my calibration curve that has a lot higher grain flow. And like I said, I'm still okay with that 0.3%. So this concludes our calibration. I'm going to run with this year because I'm confident in its accuracy, and I'm happy with that. But if you do have a load that you don't like, you can uncheck it here and hit new load and start a new load. Now that's why I told you I name these loads my speed. That way, if I come back and this 2.4 mile an hour load had like 5% error or 7% error, I would uncheck that and I'd go run another run at 2.4 mile an hour to try to fix that error in accuracy. So we're gonna go ahead back out. Just remember, check your moisture and temperature from time to time, once, twice, three times a year, depending on how often you're running. Temperature is in your EMU, check that. either with a laser thermometer early in the morning when the sun hasn't heated the shields up and the machine, haven't been running the machine, so there's not machine heat inside those shields off of the ambient temperature outside. And I believe that's all I've got for you guys now. Feel free to text, email, call any of us with any questions anytime on the use of this yield monitor system and how it's calibrated. That's what we're here for, and hopefully this video will help you guys out when you're getting started come fall and ready to harvest. Thank you for your time, everyone. This has been a pleasure of mine, and again, this is Grant Knies for Precision Farming Solutions, and hopefully down the road we'll have more of these videos to come. Thank you.